Okay. Goodness. Whew. Another day. See what the day brings. Interesting. Cultivate negative capability. The ability to endure and even embrace mysteries and uncertainties is what the poet John Keats called negative capability. All masters possess this negative capability, and it is the source of their creative power. This quality allows them to entertain a broader range of ideas and experiment with them, which in turn makes their work more rich and more inventive. Throughout his career, Mozart never asserted any particular opinions about music. Instead, he absorbed the styles he heard around himself and incorporated them into his own voice. Later in his career, he encountered for the first time the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, a kind of music very different from his own and in some ways more complex. Most artists would grow defensive and dismissive of something that challenged their own principles. Instead, Mozart opened up his mind to new possibilities, studying Bach's use of counterpoint for nearly a year and absorbing it into his own vocabulary. This gave his music a new, surprising quality. This might seem like some kind of poetic conceit, but in fact, cultivating negative capability will be the single most important factor in your success as a creative thinker. The need for certainty is the greatest disease the mind faces. Ooh, I like that. Daily law. Develop the habit of suspending the need to judge everything that crosses your path. Consider and even momentarily entertain viewpoints opposite to your own, seeing how they feel. Do anything to break up the normal train of thinking and your sense that you already know the truth. That, by far, is the best one I've read. The need to think different. That was Apple's slogan for a moment. Think different. If you're thinking like everybody else, you're just going to do what everybody else is doing. Let's see what this one says. Let's try to pick out a paragraph that might be thought-provoking. Let's read a quote. When opponents are unwilling to fight with you, it is because they think it is contrary to their interests or because you have misled them into thinking so. Again, that quote is from a section all on, let's see, what is it? So, creating a threatening presence. Pretty much projecting into the mind of an opponent. It doesn't have to be an enemy, but at least projecting into the mind of an opponent thoughts that he might not have already had about you and make him think twice about messing with you, or making him doubt that he had correct thoughts about you. How about that? The ability to entertain thoughts opposite to your own. That's a good one. That is a very good. Nobody likes to know it all. That's for sure. Nobody. I guess I can come off as that sometimes. That's only because I read so much. It's not my fault. Negative capability. I like that phrase. Okay. Get ready to hit the road. In my prayer, man. Let's do it. All right. Nice, calm ride. Very uneventful. That's what's going to happen right now. Negative capability. Yeah, always be able and open and willing to consider thoughts other than the ones that you cling to and make your life comfortable. That's why I like the tinfoil hat world. That's all about entertaining thoughts that are not of the norm, and that are not accepted by the general population. That's what that mind frame's all about. Like, okay, everybody's thinking this. Let's consider this for a moment. What if aliens are real? What if 9/11 was an inside job? What if that kid that took a shot at the president recently didn't do it? That guy. Or what if the person that shot Charlie Kirk, what if he didn't do it? That story sure doesn't add up. People are so eager to have an answer that when they're spoon-fed one by the media, they're very quick to want things to make sense. And I'm very much the opposite. What it makes from the data we've been spoon-fed, if they're just trying to say this is what makes sense and this is what you're to believe, I'm automatically already thinking, no, there's something else going on here. And especially with the Charlie Kirk thing. Like, I'd brought this up with my dad once in like a text exchange. And real quick, but I was telling them that Joe Kent, they shut him down. Didn't allow him to investigate any further into the matter. When I told my dad that, he's like, well, why should he? They caught the guy. I'm like, that's not the point. Like, his mind can't even objectively stand back, take the wide angle view of what just happened and ask yourself if it makes sense. Like, nothing about that makes sense. I don't want to go into it, but the one point that I always just point out, and I'll point out now, was the gun they say he used would have blown his neck apart. There wasn't even an exit wound. And then they try and give us some sort of crazy excuse because they know he's Christian. They try to give us some crazy excuse saying, like, his bones are so dense and there's God that, like, it's just a miracle. It's a miracle that no one else was killed. They were trying to say. I was like, what? Get out of here. That's when negative capability comes into play. Like, okay, I hear what you're saying. First of all, it doesn't make sense, so let's explore other ideas. Same thing with COVID, the shots. It's just so wild how people are just so... See, somebody like me and the things I've been through, my reality has already been shattered. Like obliterated. Like, what that shot should have done to Charlie's neck, I've had my life happen like that. So this is like, the negative capability for me is nothing. That's my comfort zone. Is the world of negative capability. I think that's the phrase that I just read. I guess that's what also helps keep me in the mindset of this is the only day you get. Do this one to the best of your ability, no matter what happens. And no matter what kind of woke up, stubbed your toe. Thank God that you have a sense of touch and you can feel your toe throbbing. Right? There's people out there paraplegics who feel nothing. the neck down. Look at the negative capability. Look at the unseen benefit of everything that's happening to you. Right? You're not guaranteed the complacency of, I'll do it tomorrow. You don't have tomorrow. You have today. Do it today. That's a form of living in the negative capability. Consider another thought than the one that's comfortable for you. I just can't do it. I can't be the person that's like spoon-fed comfort thoughts. People have comfort food. Everything that they're spoon-feeding you through mass media, those are comfort thoughts. They're giving you your reality so you don't have to construct it on your own. You know what? We'll take care of that. This is what you should be believing. This is what will make your life comfortable. No, thank you. I seem to be more comfortable amidst chaos. I think that's why I work well with dogs. Most of the time they get along, but when a pack fight breaks out, man, my world goes silent and calm. Because that's what you have to be in order to break up a pack fight. Your mind must be silent and calm. If your mind breaks out into chaos, just like the dogs, you will only add to the chaos. That's how I see it. And that's what it feels like. So I guess that's my body throwing my mind into the negative capability that moment is bringing to me. I counterbalance it with something else. I'm not even consciously doing that. That's just what happens. I've already talked about this. The first time it happened was amazing. Especially afterwards, thinking about it, I was like, man, that was wild. Yep. Negative capability. That was a good page. Because it fits me perfectly. As soon as somebody says something, my mind's already going. Because like my buddy at work, Ben, he'll tell me things like, okay, so this is what they're saying. Because he comes to me knowing that I'll have a different spin. Because he wants to hear what I think about it. Like yesterday, he was telling me about how because I guess they cut back on the TSA agents. Now they're using ICE at the airports. And my work partner, Bobby, was like, watch, they're not going to know how to do that job. And then right away, just out of knee-jerk reaction, I was like, how hard could it be? Like, he's checking bags, and he's like, yeah, but what about the x-ray machine and, checking for stuff and that? And I'm like, how hard can that be to train? Like, you're looking at a screen that sees through bags. If anything looks suspicious, flag it. Like, that's not hard. But I sat back for a moment after I gave that thought time to settle. And then I thought about that plane, how it just hit that ambulance. I was like, ooh, an accident. Interesting, okay. So now you had an accident on a runway. So now you have unqualified, by my work partner's viewpoint, unqualified workers doing a job that they weren't, properly trained to do. And you put that in conjunction with what might be able to be snuck onto a plane, right? You already have. See, in my mind, it's like, okay, they're planting seeds in your brain to accept things that are going to happen in the future. So you had a plane hit an ambulance on a runway. All right, airplane accident. Backtrack. You have people sneaking into the border, just accept it. All right, sneaking. That's the seed that's planted. People sneaking something into somewhere, people into a place. Now you have lax security at the airport. So now you have airplane accidents and sneakiness. Well, what do you get? You get somebody sneaking in something dangerous onto a plane. watch somebody sneak something like a device that's capable of detonation onto a plane. I didn't even want to say the B word. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens with an airplane mid-flight because somebody snuck a dangerous device onto a plane. Or, a weapon of some sort. Let's just say the G word. Oh, I didn't see that G in the bag. I'm an ICE agent. I'm not a TSA agent. Didn't know, not my fault. Then all of a sudden, somebody hijacks a plane. That's thinking in the negative capability. Thinking about all the other possibilities other than it'll be fine, which was my initial reaction. It'll be fine. How hard can it be? All right, let's put that aside. Let's say that's true. That's only one possibility. Let's look for the others. And I just came up with a bunch. And I told Bobby, good thinking, man. I'm glad you said that. I cast it aside just out of knee-jerk reaction, but you made a great point. And then I brought up because my buddy Ben was there when I was going through all this in my mind out loud. I do a lot of my thinking out loud, as you could tell, as I'm on my way to work. So I said all this in front of Ben about the plane that we just saw crash and how, man, something might happen with the plane that, because now maybe something does happen because ICE is doing the job they're not supposed to do. Ben's like, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, we'll see. So I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, remember where you heard it first. That's what I always tell people. Remember I said it. That's why I told my dad about Turkey. When we went into Iran, I had already heard rumors of Turkey being a major focus point of the next incursion. And probably Iran is just a jump-off point to go into Turkey. I told my dad right away. I didn't hear anything about that. Just keep an ear out. Remember I said it. That's thinking in the negative capability. It's just really it's forward thinking. Is thinking in the negative capability. Thinking beyond the limitations of your own preconceived notions and your cognitive biases. I'm talking to my dad too. Talking to him about Judaism and Zionism. And I'd never really asked my AI to confirm this, but it's kind of an idea I already had as being accurate. And it turns out it is. Because I kept seeing, it started to be confirmed through these little clips with the Orthodox Jews, with the hats and the curls, the sideburns that are long and curled. The super Orthodox Jews talking about Zionism. I was like, okay, I'm accurate. You guys don't agree with that. I was just telling my dad that. I sent him screenshots of the AI. The AI said, what did he say? I forget his exact words. Something like God doesn't agree with either side. Because the Messiah already came and went. See? He's got all the answers. Nice and tidy. Tied up with a bow. No need to think about that. Ignore the fact that it's causing problems in another area of the world. He's got all the answers. See how easy life is when you have all the answers? Or when you think you do, you don't have to think. That's what it is. It's intellectual laziness. All the people out there who think they have all the answers, they're being intellectually lazy. Because if they don't think they have the answers, that means they have to think. Who wants to do that? Want to think? Just want to have my thoughts spoon-fed to me. It's easier that way. Everybody chooses whose spoon is feeding them their thoughts. Some like Fox, some like CNN. Oh, just to troll a little bit too. I thought it's funny. I already said this. I'll say it again. I thought it's funny that the word F-A-U-X, I know it's pronounced faux, like faux fur, like fake fur. But if you look at how it's spelled, F-A-U-X, it looks like fox. Because when you look it up, the word, and like it's not real, you know, it's imitation, it's fake. I'm like, how funny they named it Fox News. That the word itself looks like fox. Showed it to my mom too. Thought she'd like that. No reply. I don't think either of my parents really want to hear anything I have to say. That's fine. I don't care. I really stopped caring about what people think about what I have to say. I just say it anyways. You have your own thoughts to yourself. Agree or disagree. None of my business. Just remember I said it. That's what I should change this channel to. Remember I said it. Or I had the thought, I made an account called Rise and Revelate. Because the idea of the word revelation came to mind because it's the last book of the Bible. I'm like, well, there's a root word to revelation. Revelation is not a root word. There's a word that word comes from, and it turns out it's revelate. And the way that thought popped into my mind is, you know, back in the day when I used to indulge in cannabis, there was a place that I liked to frequent called Elevate. And elevate is the root word of elevation. It kind of sounds like elevation, kind of sounds like revelation. I'm like, okay, so what's the root word of revelation? Turns out to be revelate. To revelate just means to reveal. So that's why I made that account. Rise and Revelate, which basically means to rise and reveal, which is kind of what I'm doing every morning when I make these videos. What am I revealing? I don't know. Just the thoughts in my head, I guess. If I happen to read that little law that prods a bunch of ideas, I do that, like the negative capability. What does that law reveal to me? I'm pretty sure reveal is the synonym to like revelate in some way. I mean, it's in the definition. Obviously, they're connected, related, I should say. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good law. Actually, it goes along with that quote from my 33 Strategies of War. You know, projecting an idea into your opponent's mind is inducing the idea of negative capability for them. Because now you're having them question everything they thought about you. Like, oh man, maybe what I thought isn't right. Maybe I should second guess this. That's how those two are linked. So the ability to project into your opponent's mind ideas that aren't their own is a very useful tool when it comes to any kind of competitive endeavor or war itself. So the ability for your mind to play around in the negative capability is a very good thing. Because if your mind becomes too static with with thoughts, your opponents and your enemies will catch on to this, and they will have the blueprint to you. You don't want that. You always want to keep them guessing. That's why the tinfoil hat way of thinking, you can embody that. It'll open up the negative capabilities in you. If you think about it, the opposite of that phrase would be positive capability. And I guess the way to think of that is what you already affirm to be true. But like I say often, okay, you already think that's true. Let's put that to the side. That's not going anywhere. Now let's entertain its opposite. What if this? What if that? Might this be true? Might this person think that? Might that situation happen this way instead of that way? You can just cultivate that way of thinking. Now when it comes to an adversary, now it just becomes a game. What thoughts might you want to plant in their mind? How might you want to present yourself to the world so that people can think twice about how they approach you, especially an opponent or an adversary? This is all very helpful. Because if that song is true and love itself is a battlefield, I would assume the rest of life is going to be, it'd be probably helpful to think of life itself as a battlefield. And how are you handling yourself on this battlefield? Are you telegraphing your moves? Not everybody might be familiar with the use of that term. To telegraph something is to give a tell, right? There's little cues, little hints that your opponents might pick up on that are showing what you're going to do next. That's what telegraphing like a punch is. Oh, he shifts his weight this way, or he moves his shoulders that way. That's a telegraph. That's a tell. And a crafty opponent will catch on to these quick. But knowing that, you can use tells to set up other things. This is done all the time in every facet of life. This is done in mainstream media. This is done in politics. This is done in relationships. This is done on the battlefield. Strategic thinking means thinking ahead and thinking in ways that don't suit you, because your opponent might be thinking in that way. So you might want to start thinking different. Because if you don't, you will meet ruin quickly. That's what I did when I left my ex-wife. She went to work one day, and I jumped up and packed everything and left. She didn't see that coming. Didn't telegraph that move one bit. She just thought I was going to sit and take it. Nope. You were dealing with a different person, and you didn't know it. That's what you get. That's what happens when you don't think in the negative capability. Anybody out there who's cheating on their spouse? Careful. They can make a move that you don't see coming. Obviously, they're not seeing the move that you made. Oh man, then blocking lanes. I hope my lane is open. They do this a lot here. When are you just going to finish whatever you're doing and leave my lanes alone? Now everybody's putting on brakes. Come on. It's just the cops. Everybody's going slow. Yep. Coming up to my exit. That was a good page. It gave me a lot of material to talk about. There's a lot to go off of on negative capability. It's one of my favorite ones so far, to be honest, because it fits so well with how my mind thinks. I love to think the alternate thought. It's my favorite thing to do. Because I don't want to think like everybody else. Like everybody heard that on the news, okay, I'm going to think differently about how you took it. Like everybody go get a shot. COVID came from a bat. Israel is our greatest ally. Two airplanes knocked down 3 buildings on 9/11. The whole idea of slavery in America. Where did they get those slaves? Africa. Think they just stole those people? Nope. Better do a little reading. Because the way they teach it, that's how most people just kind of picture it. Enslaved a bunch of people. Nope. That was a barter and trade situation. I've told people this at that job because I was reminded of that just recently because I don't really think about all that much. But I heard something on a podcast and they went over that again. I forget who it was saying it, but he was black. He was like, a bunch of white people didn't just come over here and steal us. Like we were sold into slavery by our own people in Africa. That's such a great point. So I started telling people at work that because the way the guy had said it, I forget how he worded it, but it was fantastic. And even people here, they were like, what? I was like, yeah. What do you think happened? There were black slave owners in Africa who sold their people to the white people. I even told my mom that. I forget how it came up. You could hear the gears in her mind go. That's because they don't have the ability to think different. There is no negative capability with them. How could that be true? My textbook that was the official history of the world in school didn't tell me that. It can't be true. Right? The official news that's on my TV that has to be interrupted to sell products, they didn't tell me that. That can't be true. Cognitive dissonance, I think that's what that's called. If I'm getting that phrase correctly. Like the mind will instinctively fight back to preserve a preconceived truth. And it's fighting to not have its reality shattered. Which is understandable, I get that. It's a instinctual defense mechanism of the mind to preserve itself. Because it feels like it's under attack. That's what it feels. That's what I think really what is going on when people can't accept a harsh truth. It's like a form of mental self-preservation. Like somebody breaks into your house, you instinctually just attack. Right? No one just sits there and lets someone attack them. You attack back, just out of physical self-preservation. Well, the same thing happens with the mind. It makes sense. That's why it's so hard to red pill people. That's why it's very difficult to present hard truths to people who have already accepted the soft, cozy ones that have been force-fed to them. It's rough. It's rough out here in these streets trying to spread truth and light. Because once you shed a light on an ugly falsity, falsehood, one of those words. Once you do that, people have to confront it, and that's rough. It's like a band-aid. You want to pull it off quick. You don't want to do that slowly. Alright, so I made it to my destination. I didn't drink any of my drink, which is fine. I think I'm going to save it to like halfway through the day. Try and just have that drink, my one caffeinated drink for the day. I'm really trying to cut back on caffeine. But, alright, everybody, entertain an uncomfortable truth. It will enhance your life. Go to work.